gonna be part of my story. The meeting has begun recording. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and esteemed guests, good evening. We are having another Tuesday Mercury meeting, and so far so great. I have the funny tale of the day. It was a very long day, doing a very long chore list at work, and I went, or currently am, at a friend. My friend is crawling underneath my feet right now, so she doesn't appear on camera. And my friend sells handmade crafted items and wearables, and she also owns a stationery shop. She did a bunch of scrunchies. Now, I don't have any long hair, but these scrunchies are very comfortable. They are very, oh, Manuel, they are, the, the way they are made, they make you very warm. So I'm using it both as a wrist warmer and as a wrist rest for me when I use my mouse. And they are extremely comfortable. So yes, when you see me wearing this black scrunchie, know that I am being very hard at work and comfortable at the same time. Thank you, Sareen. However, that being said, we at Mercurian meetings, we have rules for our meetings. So in order not to talk about things or ideas that might offend some people, we try our best not to talk about violence, sex, religion, and or politics. Basically, anything that you could have in a good meeting, in a good conversation, but we can do that later on. With that being said, we are also part of multiple meetings in this region: Mercury, Protost, Bob, speakers and leaders in UB, and finally, loudspeakers in Zoom. I think that was the president's role, but I overtook that. There is also one more thing, that our meeting is being recorded, and enjoy. Soraya?
Thank you so much, Khaled, for this warm welcome. Now, before I start, I just wanted to add to what you had to say, and that is, yes, indeed, Toastmasters is not something only we have in Lebanon. It's an international organization that has a certain goal, and that is to provide a friendly atmosphere for people, a supportive environment for them to practice their public speaking and leadership. So you can think of it as a mini lab or a gym for your public speaking skills. We all need to practice those skills so that we don't get like rusty when we have an interview or a work presentation or anything related that could affect our life permanently. So without further ado, let us start this meeting. Today, as I said, the meeting will be a little bit shorter than our usual meeting because we have a joint meeting on Thursday. So instead of skipping Tuesdays, we will be focusing today on impromptu speaking. So the meeting will go as follows. I will be giving some tips about how to answer impromptu, because this is indeed something that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they go to an interview and they want to put on their best attitude. So some of the things that could help when you're under stress, to think and to answer on spot. Then after that, I will give you the chance to volunteer. I have prepared some interesting questions. We will be asking them, and you will be answering those questions. Khalid was supposed to be the table topics evaluator, so he is evaluating us. But if no one else joins, we can do something, and that is Khalid can be the table topics evaluator, leader of the sessions, and we can like hear multiple dedicated feedback for each one of you. So we can try to benefit as much as we can from this session. Now, without further ado, let's start. Allow me to share my screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, oh shit. الكهرباء
Yes.
when I decided to become spooky.
Khaled. Okay, let me know when you see my screen.
We can see it, Soraya. Just before we start, if you allow me, Madam President, I would like to tell our guest, Gabriel, that when answering a question, if he wishes, it would be better if he opens the camera. If not, no pressure at all. Just that gentle reminder. Same applies to you, Manuel, since you are a member in our club.
Okay, we also have some timing rules. I will talk about them before we start the session. But now let's start with the tips. Can you see the PowerPoint? Okay, great. Table topics. What is table topics? Table topics is basically our term for saying impromptu speaking. It's the session where we have questions and we answer them on the spot, at our feet. This was something that was very frustrating for me. It was something I really feared. And the first time I tried it on stage and Speakers and Leaders at AUB, I blanked out completely. Even though the question that I was asked was a relatively easy question, which I could answer easily. But when you're on stage and people are looking at you and they're expecting you to answer something, that's when you feel the pressure to impress. And that's when some people feel fear, and fear sometimes stops you from actually answering. So in order to do that, the thing that we do here at Toastmasters is practice. Of course, in the beginning, it's going to be very difficult to push yourself to try it, but the more you try it, the easier it is for you, the faster you become at thinking on the spot. So after a few years of practicing it, answering any question becomes a piece of cake because you've mastered the technique, you've put yourself under the pressure, and mainly you trained your mind to think quickly and to think in a very structured manner in a short period of time. So that's the purpose of why we have a dedicated session for table topics. And even though some of those questions might not be asked in interviews, they still teach the art of thinking fast and in a structured way. So how do we do that here at Toastmasters? Now we have some techniques, which I will be sharing with you. But before we do that, whatever question you get asked, you need to remember one thing, and that is take your time to think. If you are new to this, take a few seconds, gather your breath, organize your thoughts, and think of how to approach this question. Now, during this workshop or table topic workshop, I will be telling you how to use this time in the beginning in an efficient way to come up with an answer in a very short period of time. So that's what we will discuss. Now, the first thing we're going to discuss is how to develop your answer. After that, we're going to talk about some techniques to develop this answer. So let's start. In order to do that, you're going to be asked a question. So once you're asked the question, a lot of ideas will come to your mind. You will start thinking, what should I say? Should I say this? Or no, that idea is better. I should go with that. At that moment, because you do not have a lot of time, go with the first idea that comes to your mind and try to develop this idea. Use the rest of the time to structure ideas that will support this idea. Because if you continue to look for the best idea that's going to come, you will lose the time and you will end up talking about something that is not probably structured, so you won't use the time efficiently. And I know that sometimes when we come up to table topics, because we do that a lot here, we might think, okay, this idea is not very good. Now, the more you practice the skill, the better ideas will come up, because it's a skill. As I said, you train yourself. So if you train yourself to think fast, that's also how you train yourself to come up with better ideas in shorter time. But for now, we can start doing this in our session, since nobody's going to judge you when you come up on table topics. So just try to go with the first idea with your mind and work with that. The next thing to do while developing your answer in those, let's say, 30 seconds, is to know when to stop. This is very important, because we might get the perfect idea and we start talking, or we start thinking of what to say, and we start talking. And then the time is ticking, the timer will raise the flag, which means we have to wrap up. And somehow a lot of speakers usually do not know how to end their speech. And once they reach that point, they simply either end abruptly, so they end the speech without a proper conclusion, or they start repeating their sentences over and over again until they say something like, yeah, and basically, that's my answer, which is not a very powerful way to end when you're speaking. So in order to avoid that, while you're thinking during those 30 seconds, know what is the message you want to end with. If you have the end in mind, which is basically like the destination you're going to, you know how to explore the road as you speak. So first of all, define the idea you're going to talk about, and then define the destination you want to go to, and that is the final message you want to leave your audience with. The third thing to think of during those 30 seconds is how to start with power and how to end with power. So starting with power is very important, because in the very few seconds of your speech decide whether the audience will listen to you, or whether you lose the interest of the audience. So if you start with power, you will grab their attention, and they will want to listen to what you have to say. Now, as for the ending, if you end as I described before, people might not remember you. People might not get the message that you're trying to say. And that's why ending with power makes sure that you leave an impact on your audience. They will be convinced of your message that you have to say. If there's a call to action, they might even want to try it. So starting with power and ending with power is a very important thing to think of before you start talking. Finally, something also that I really like, and that is to end with a call to action. As I said, people are here to listen to you. They want to see if you what you have to say. So they're spending, for example, here in Toastmasters, we have a 2-hour meeting. Let's make their time count. So after they listen to a speech, it would be nice to have a call to action where they're motivated or influenced to do something. It's also something people look forward to, because if they're listening to something, they have to relate to it. And if you ask them to do something, that's how you involve them in the speech that you delivered. Now, mainly this is the action plan of what to do in those 30 seconds of trying to develop an answer. If we want to summarize, they are the following. Mainly, we take our time to think. Second, we think of the first idea that comes to our mind. We take it. We think of the end, the final message, and we think of how we can make the start very powerful and the end very powerful, and mainly try to end with a call to action to motivate them. Now that we have an action plan, we can start talking about how some general tips on how we can develop our answer while we are speaking. So as we start speaking, we can start, like ideas will start coming to our mind, and we want supporting material to convince the people of what we are talking about. So let's start with the first tip, which is a very basic one, basically. It is to express an opinion. We all have opinions. So one technique to answer is to state our opinion. I believe we should do this instead of that. This will give you time to talk. And also when it's your personal opinion, you can prove to the others why they should believe you or not. You can explain things to them if it's a personal opinion, and you can relate to them, and you can make them like relate to you with what you have to say. So this is mainly the first tip. The second tip is to remember the rule of 3. What is the rule of 3? Basically, whether it is an opinion you're starting or you're talking about something, anything, just try to limit the ideas in your speech, in the body of your speech, to 2 or 3 points. This also depends on the length of your speech. But for our application today, we have 2 to 3 minutes. So try to limit them the ideas that you speak of to 2 to 3 points, so that you can talk about each of these points in a good amount of time, get the message through without adding more ideas that could, for example, not be explained with the time that you have. So stick to 2 to 3 points for a 1 to 2 minute speech. The third tip is to remember the 6 honest serving men. So what are those 6 honest serving men? Mainly, it is to try to answer the following questions. If you're stuck on ideas, just ask yourself, what, why, when, how, where, and who. If you have answers to those, you mainly have your answer to the question. So try to think of those answers and just formulate the answers in a well-organized speech. And basically you have the content to speak of in a very short period of time. The fourth tip is to draw on your experiences. We all have experiences, whether at, in our careers, family experiences, the things we do after work, anything that we have a lot of personal stories that people could be interested in hearing. So if there's a question where you could share a personal story, this is the best way to connect to your audience and to catch their attention. Because who doesn't like to hear stories? I mean, I like to hear stories. So if you have a personal story you could incorporate in your answer, that's a good way for you to gain time and to get the message through. So you add some emotions to your answer, which could somehow gain your audience. Now, for the fifth tip is to use support material. Now, I know this is a little bit vague, but it contains a lot of things. So we mentioned some of them, which is these personal stories or mainly anecdotes. If there are some stories that are not personal, you could also use them. You could use quotes, statistics, questions. If you have a certain demonstration, like a prop or a video you could show. Of course, that would also depend on the speech that you're giving. So maybe in table topics here, we won't have a lot of things to show. But if you are somewhere, for example, sometimes people at home, they would find a prop, they would use it right away. So try to get inspired from what's around you, and maybe you could also use that to your benefit when you're speaking. Also, you could use questions, by the way. You could ask open-ended questions or some questions to trigger curiosity for people. Mainly, you will keep them anticipating for more from you or expect you to answer the question. So this is also some kind of support material you could use. Now, the sixth step is don't shy away from making something up. Now, I don't usually recommend that in interviews. In interviews, it's a bad idea to make something up. But if you're in a table topics competition, for example, or if you're in Toastmasters, where we are only practicing our skill and practicing the skill of thinking fast, you can come up with a story, for example, in a way to train yourself to think fast and to get creative. But of course, never lie in your interviews. This is horrible. But if you're in this setup and you want to answer a question, just as I will ask you right now, because you might not have answers to those questions, try to make something up, maybe try to use some humor. After all, we don't know what you're about to say, so you have the complete freedom right now to think of something creative and come up with on your feet. Now for the seventh, this is something you might not be able to do right now, but after some time of practice, you can come up with it, and you can use it basically in all of your impromptu speeches, which is to develop your own template. Now there are several templates you could come up with. Once you train for your table topic skill, eventually you will know the template that fits you more for answering such questions. You will discover your style, and personally, this makes your life super easy when you're trying to improvise something. It also gives a fixed structure in your head. You have the structure, all you have to do is plug in the different answers, and you get very quickly a structured answer that has a meaningful ending, for example. So I had a friend, personally, he was a great friend of mine in Toastmasters, and he always impressed me with his table topics. And after seeing him for some time, I discovered his template that he uses. He has a psychology degree, and somehow he has a very good memory. So he remembers a lot of quotes. Every table topics, he starts with a quote related to the question. Then he starts discussing this quote, and he somehow relates it to the topic of the question. And after that, he just ends with a call to action. This is the template that he found as very useful for him, and he could easily implement it since he remembers a lot of quotes. And every time he is called up to answer such a question, he would just change the quote, elaborate on it, and end with a call to action that he comes up with after he starts talking about the quote. So during those 30 seconds, if you were able to come up with a template for you, it would be very good for you, because in 30 seconds, you can really come up with a very good answer by just filling this template. But of course, that needs some practice. Now, that's mainly the tips that I have for you. We can mainly memorize them if you want, summarize them before we start with our table topics. And that is mainly express an opinion. Remember the rule of 3, stick to 2 or 3 points. Remember the 6 honest serving men, which are what, why, when, how, where, and who. And of course, draw on your own experiences. Use support material. Do not shy away from making something up, and try to develop a template over time. Now it is time for us to apply those tips. But before that, we can have room for some questions. If you have some questions you would like to ask about those tips or anything related to table topics, we can have a few seconds to answer those before we can explain the next session. Yes, Roland?
Thoraya, I just want you please to really summarize the main points, please, because I'm lagging a lot, and I know that this is such a valuable workshop. So if you can do it, please, for me.
Yes, of course. So first of all, take your time to think. Go with the first idea that comes in your mind. Know when to stop. Start with power and end with power, and end with a call to action. So this is what you do before you start talking in those 30 seconds. After that, the techniques: express an opinion, stick to 2 or 3 points in your speech. Remember to answer the 6 questions of what, why, when, who, and where, and how. Share your personal stories if it applies. Use some supporting material like anecdotes, questions, statistics, quotes, anything that you see if it fits your material. And if you don't know how to answer this question, try to come up with something, maybe create a story or get creative. And finally, develop a template for you that you see fits your style. Were you able to hear them?
Perfect. Thank you, Thoraya.
Welcome. Khaled?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
What if we had a mind block? What if we hit a mind block and we literally have nothing to think about? And we need to start talking. What do we do?
Okay, so mainly the mind block is due to your stress or due to really not finding anything to talk about, because the two answers are different. If you're the two, okay, so mainly if you're afraid of it, if you feel like you have a lot of adrenaline in your body and you simply blanked out, this is normal. This will happen to to some people who have never tried such thing. The only thing that I would tell them is to come again. That's why we have Toastmasters, is because, you know, if they blanked out on stage, it's not like they're gonna lose the next job they apply to. So it's their time to try to put themselves in such a situation by just coming up on stage and trying to familiarize yourself with this feeling. That's when you start to take control of it. But mainly you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and experience this fear. And when you experience this fear, only then you will be able to use it to your benefit. Because in the beginning, you know, when we don't know what to expect, fear is huge. It would have a huge impact on you if you don't know what to expect. But once you start facing it step by step, that fear will somehow lose its control over you, and you will be able to train yourself to overcome it somehow. So that's if you fear it. But if you're comfortable with speaking in public, then mainly if you don't have any idea, this is not really recommended in Toastmasters, but some people use the technique of changing somehow the question to talk about something around the topic of the question. So they, for example, if the question talks about cats, they would talk about cats, but they wouldn't necessarily answer that question. But this is not really recommended. We recommend that you try to think of an answer to the question, not to twist it. But yeah, everything comes with practice. The more you practice and the more you practice with awareness of what you're doing and get effective feedback, the better you become at this skill and the easier it is for you to answer. Like personally, I used to blank out on stage. I used to use a lot of fillers. Sometimes I would end abruptly. I used to do all of that. But when one of my friends shared with me those tips, it was like life-changing, honestly, especially when you practice them. Okay, any more questions?
So shall we start practicing?
Yes, of course. Now, before we start, allow me to share the timing rules. For our guests who are not Toastmaster members, we can we will allow you to speak for at least 30 seconds. After that, after 30 seconds have passed, I will raise this flag, the green background. Then at 1 minute, I will raise the, at 1 minute, 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow flag. And at 2 minutes, I will raise the red flag. And when you see the red flag, it means time is almost up. You have 30 seconds after that to wrap your speech up and to end. Now, for our members, it is a little bit more challenging because I will raise the green flag at 1 minute. So you have to speak for at least 1 minute before you can stop. And then at 1 minute, 30 seconds, I will raise the yellow flag. And at 2 minutes, I will raise the red flag. You also, once you see the red flag, you have 30 seconds of grace period, after which you will wrap your speech up. Now, those timing rules are basically just to challenge our speakers to speak within the time frame. And after that, we usually have a voting. If people made it on time, they spoke for the minimum amount of time required, and they didn't exceed the maximum amount, then we vote for our best table topic speaker. Now, let us start. Who would like to be the first volunteer? Roland. Let's start with Roland.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Am I audible? Okay. Hit me.
Okay. The question you have, I will repeat the question twice, so you can, you also have some time to think. Now, this is a quote. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. This is by Elon Musk. What is important to you? The question is, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. What is important to you?
Mr. Distraction, please stop. My fellow Toastmasters and well-esteemed guests, we as people all need a lot of things. But let's talk about the principles, the things that we cannot live without. I'm speaking about food, electricity, gas, Mr. Khalid Shatila, gas, yes, gas for our cars. But in Lebanon, these simple privileges have been stolen from us. And I'm not gonna go why, because this is not by the laws of Toastmasters. But I know that we as society are resilient and are fighters to get our rights in our favor. I think in such country where the dollar has gone from 1.5 thousand to 30,000, the crucial, critical, vital, name it whatever you want, factor we need is the dollar. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, I live in Akkar, North Lebanon. And in some period of this year, we had 3 hours of electricity. 3 hours of electricity? Yes. And I was living and I tried to tackle it with reading books or doing anything that does not require the laptop or at least my cell phone and internet. Of course, it could not be a life, but I was always fighting and trying to survive in such environment until I had the money to buy the UPS, I had the money to buy a new laptop, and I had the money that forced the key to lots of problems. So I think our major, let's say, goal or aspiration, it depends, is making more and more money, especially in such country. But let's talk in general. Who does not love money? With that being said, I leave you with this question. Do you, fellow listeners, and if you were, let's say, hit by this question, is it money or love or family or friends? I will always be, let's say, into any word, Hamas, to listen to your answer. Back to you, Thoraya.
Thank you so much, Roland. Khalid, would you like to give feedback right now, or?
Yes, I would love to now evaluate almost instantly. Okay, I did use this little piece of cardboard to write down some notes that is relevant to your answer. And first of all, relevancy. The quote is meaningful, but not really. It was vague. This is why your answer was a bit vague as well. It actually fits the quote. So I don't have any comments on your content, yet I do have a comment on your finale. You had a certain stigma that you were following through, yet in the end, you cut that off. And instead of trying to finish at the same note, you tried to grab our attention again by asking us and prompting us a question. I agree, yet the question didn't really feel on point. That's my only comment. I am sure that if you wanted to explain yourself, you will make much more sense. 1. 2, I will be evaluating your tonality, body language, and vocal variety. My friend, you are getting much better. You are getting much better with your vocal variety because you used to be very monotonous. Today, you were monotonous, but for a reason, because the idea didn't even have to have highs and lows. The idea was straight and discrete. Your usage of your body, your usage of your setup and your camera, and the way you are positioned made us feel that you are very comfortable on stage. And this, my friend, is something that I do commend you on. And finally, your body language. The same comment. You are using your body perfectly. That's what she said. And this is great for you to do. Thank you, Roland. I really hope that you come back on stage better, and better. Back to you, Soraya. That's what she said. I had to.
Our Khalid always breaking the rules. But at least it's not explicit. But let's try to avoid that. Okay. Anyone else would like to give comment? Yes, Manuel?
I thought you were going to ask a question. Comments for Roland, not really. I just feel like you need to do this more often, like to gain more practice, because at some point I felt like you didn't know what to say, and then suddenly you found a thread and you went on with that, and then it was the red flag and you hadn't rounded up the idea. So I'm not sure if you were able to finish before the 2:30, but when you see yellow, then you start to wrap up. Don't wait until you see red. Just see yellow and start to wrap up. And usually any good wrap up will take you around 30 seconds. So you will be finishing right on time. That's all my comment.
Okay, great. Would you like to come up and answer a question, Manuel?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. Okay, let me pick something for you that is a little bit challenging.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna pick this one. There are 3 constants in life: change, choice, and principles. Stephen Covey. When was the last time you changed one of your principles? Tell us the story. So the question is, there are 3 constants in life: change, choice, and principles. When was the last time you changed one of your principles? Share it with us, please.
Chance favors the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur. Madam Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest. The three things, principles, choice, and change, they are actually together. They are joined together. We cannot separate one from another, because whenever you have to make a choice, you have to keep in mind your principles. You cannot forget about them in any situation. And speaking of change, you shouldn't change your principles. I can honestly say that I cannot remember one single time I didn't follow my principles. I don't have many, but the few I have, I try to keep them always present, because it comes a time in life, actually it comes several times in life, when you don't know what to do, when you have to take one choice, or you have to take another choice. But if you don't know what to do, what will come out from the decision you make, if anything is going to change for good or for bad, then you have to go back to your principles. Like, should I help this person or not? If I walk away without doing anything, what will change? Will I feel comfortable with myself? And that's when your principles should kick in. So I do that, and I recommend that to everybody. When you don't know what to say or what to do, just follow your principles. If you are asked a question and you are pondering in your mind, should I say the truth? Should I say a lie? Maybe it is a white lie, so I should lie. No, don't do that. Unless somebody's life is on the line. But other than that, you should always follow your principles. And I have done that. I can say, honestly, I can say I have done that every time I don't know what to do. So yeah, the answer is no, I haven't changed my principles. I always default back to them when I don't know what to do, and I try to keep true to them all the time.
Thank you, Manuel. Very interesting answer. Khaled?
Yes, I have an important note to say. I remember that, like, literally a moment ago, you just asked Ronan to not feel surprised with the red flag, and then the red flag suddenly came and you felt surprised. So you had an amazing idea. You expressed it in a very light way, and I love the way you expressed your content. Yet, ironically, you didn't really apply the advice that you gave because you haven't started wrapping up your speech at the yellow light, or when we felt that you need to finalize or wrap up your speech, because as the red light popped up with Thuraya, you're like, yeah, so always follow your morals and don't lie. It's like it felt a bit abrupt because you were moving on a certain pace. I really hate this virtual background because it's not giving me the chance to express with my fingers until Khalid. Okay. You're not giving your certain pace. You were moving on a certain pace like that. And then suddenly you just, khalas, done. Red flags are made, of course, not those red flags. Red flags are made for you to say, hey, now it's time to stop. You have some more time to calm down. And hey, now I need to focus on ending my speech. It's not a full stop. It's not a sign that says, yalla, bye-bye. No, you have some more time. And I urge people, I even urge my mentee to take the most of her time to reach 7 minutes and 29 seconds right before the end of the red flag. I know it might be hard to actually to be on point, but make sure that you take your time as much as you can to deliver an idea. Other than that, I really think that you are a very natural speaker. I really think that you are a very expressive speaker. And I don't think you need to work on anything in public as much, except maybe a bit your tonality again, because when you expressed humor, it could have been fun if you had some vocal variety, but nevertheless, I love the way you speak, Manuel. Thank you so much, Yati.
Thank you so much, Khaled. But yeah, even with the other red flags, we need to know that we need to stop. So yeah, that's the comment on what you have to say, Khaled. Gabrielle, would you like to participate?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. What should I ask you?
First of all, I would like to apologize. I'm at Starbucks, so there's plenty of noise.
Starbucks is actually one of our sponsors, meeting sponsors. I always do my meetings there, so it's fine. Okay, so the question is, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. Dalai Lama. How do you deal with your anger? The question is basically, how do you deal with your anger?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for hosting us and providing us with this training and opportunity to take a moment, think of our thoughts and express them, which takes me straight to the point, how to deal with anger. One of the best things or advices that I got is never make a decision when you're angry. This is why it's always important to take a step back, understand your emotions, understand that you're angry, accept that you're angry, and take action, not based on your anger, on your emotions, but rational actions. So the first thing we need to do is accept that we are angry, allow ourselves to take this step back. Once we took this step back, think of our options, calm down. If we are not able to take a decision at the moment, do not take a decision. The best action is not to take a decision based on our anger, on our emotions, but taking no action is an action by itself because we are avoiding another problem. Once we are calm, once we are rational, we can think things through, we can consider our options and reflect on the decisions and the impact each decision will take. Because every action has a reaction. Sometimes the reaction could be catastrophic. It could be worse than the cause that got us to take this action. So it is very important to, first of all, take this step, understand what we are feeling, consider our options, and then take the necessary steps. This is what I would like to think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriel, for your lovely answer. Now, Khaled.
Gabriel, is this your first time on the virtual stage?
Second.
This is your second time on the virtual stage. I owe you a huge round of applause because I tried to listen to every single word that you said, and they hit hard. And they hit the heart, like so on point. I commend you so much on your content. It was very well thought of. I think it's probably because you're saying something that you live by on a daily basis. Because no one says something while being so sure and confident about it if they don't use it. With that being said, I commend you on your content, the way you structured your content in a way that was like an expression or, hey, I'm explaining a concept in a very smooth and subtle way. Honestly, I don't find anything to critique. I'm very sure that maybe Thuraya would find something to have a comment on, but honestly speaking, I found it very flawless. Now, I know that maybe you are in Starbucks, so you can't really use the whole fiasco of your body and your voice. No, well, that's great. You're doing you're dealing with the hand that you were dealt, and you're dealing it in a very smart way. Now, I do have something for you to improve on, is maybe try to give it a bit more structure. Because once you were reaching the finale, you didn't really, like Manuel, you didn't give it much of thought and, hey, I need to end my speech. You were still giving an idea and expressing your idea, yet once the red line hit you, You're like, yeah, and this is how we ended. No, this is not how you were supposed to end it. You could have definitely ended it in a much smarter way. I'm not saying that you did a bad job. You did a terrific job. But my friend, it could have ended in a smoother way, just like it started. People remember the way you start and the way you finish. The rest is how they feel, how they felt about your speech. With that being said, I literally beg you to keep on coming every single Tuesday because you did an amazing job. Thank you so much, Gabriel Hashash. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Khalid. Indeed, you did a wonderful job. Your answer was, you started really well and you elaborated on your answer. I do agree that the ending could have been a little smoother, but of course, this is something that we take years to practice, especially since we haven't prepared. So that's the whole point of the session, it's to practice, to be able to come with a full speech in those 30 seconds. Okay. Roland, you'd like to come up next?
Next, I have something just to mention for Gabriel, if you allow me.
Yes.
Okay, regardless of my bad connection, and I hope that you now still can hear me, I noticed something that your hands, Gabriel, were trying to freeze themselves, but because maybe you were a bit nervous, were thinking, lots of things going around, you were immobilizing them with doing this gesture, always, or doing this one. Look, this is a symbol of a barrier. Always when you, let's say, cross your hands or put them in the pocket or do such gestures, these are the negative gestures, you are kind of creating a virtual barrier. And this is what we want to avoid. You can absolutely use the alternatives, such as doing this, it is the box or the ball when you are explaining this, picking up and picking up. Or if you don't know where to put them, especially that you are using your phone, if I'm not mistaken, that's why, yeah, you're using the phone, just do this one. This is called the steeple. And it always gives an amazing results because it helps you to think. Believe me, believe what I'm saying. It helps you to think on the right idea, and it releases the, let's say, I don't want to say the adrenaline rush, but the nervousness that you feel. So when you do it in, yes, exactly, in your speeches, in your debates, in whatever you are doing, you will feel more confident. And that is the main point that we want to start from. Other than that, I'm afraid that I couldn't get the whole speech, but as Khalid said, as Thuraya said, you did a terrific job, my friend. Back to you, Thuraya. Manuel has something.
Yes, Manuel, you'd like to come up?
Yes, I just want to add a little to what Roland said, because I also thought that about the gestures that Gabriel was making. These are very symmetrical gestures. Try to avoid that because it doesn't look good. So try to use one hand for one idea, maybe another hand, but try not to do this symmetrical movement because it becomes a distraction. Just that, just to add on that. Oh, well, also since I have the word right now, Soraya and Khaled are excellent table topics speakers. So if I have a few questions and I can time you. So whenever you want to take the stage, guys, I'm happy to take that role.
Please do that.
Okay, like right now?
Yes.
Okay, so Soraya first or Khaled first?
I can go first.
Okay, Soraya, I have a few hand-picked questions for you guys. I'm not sure which one to go for you. Okay. Just let me open my timer app. All right, so Soraya, what's the best part of growing older? What's the best part of growing older? Soraya Nasser.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know, I'm 27 years old. Next year, I'll be 28 years old. So you can imagine that my friends, they're around the same age. But every time I attend a birthday or they start achieving things in their life, like getting married, having children, getting promoted in their jobs, they always have this one fear in which they share with me. Always. As time passes by, they fear the number 30, especially during birthdays. Some of them even claim that when they become 30, it's the end of their life. But surprisingly, I've never thought that. I am looking forward to become 30, which is why they were always surprised of why was that? Why was I so excited about becoming 30? Well, how I see it, 30 is the age of financial stability. You achieve certain things in your life. You're a grown-up, you're an adult, you're wiser than your 20s. And maybe that's what really makes me love growing older. It's why I love having gray hair when I'm 80 years old. It's because the more time you pass, the more you learn, the more wisdom you gain. And that's my personal goal in life. It's to gain wisdom. Because knowledge, you have access to knowledge right now at the push of the button. But wisdom is something you will never get unless you experience things. And in order to experience things, you have to let time pass. So please embrace your age and grow older and wiser. Back to you.
Thank you for your answer, Suraya. Okay, Khaled, do you want to give feedback for Suraya?
Can we all just say hail to the queen? Can we just say that? Because I have nothing to say, because the eyes says them all. The eyes never lie, Chico. The way Suraya expresses with three ideals, her face, her eyes, her words, and her body. 4, actually, I suck at math. Oh my God. Sorry.
Okay.
شردات بالبشار. Yeah, as I was saying, Suraya uses her natural elements to express her own ideas, and thus it doesn't become a speech more than it becomes, hey, we need to do واحد اثنين ثلاثة. Hey, we need to be 1 2 3. Hey, we're here. Hey, there's an idea that we want to talk about. And she literally makes anything that is so mundane very interesting. And if I do have something to comment on, is that she abided with my advice and she gave a thought to the finale. She did not just end, thank you for the water. She did not just end abruptly. With that, I say thank you, Suraya. Back to you.
Manuel, would you like to evaluate?
Well, I feel like we are in the old days when our meeting had 3 sections, like prepare speeches, table topics, and Suraya's praising time. But yeah, I agree with Khaled. It was a very good answer. Only a few ahs and ums here and there. But other than that, I would just say just add a little to your vocal variety and you are set to go.
Great.
That's it.
Manuel. So Khaled, would you like to come up?
Yes, I would love to come up on stage.
Well,
to
do
be
you
on
have
the
it?
recipient.
Should I ask a question?
Of course, if you have
Yes.
some.
Okay, yes, I have one for Khaled. Okay, just give me a moment. All right, Khaled. Oh, he's busy. You ready, Khaled? All right, well, just remember to turn on your microphone before starting. So
Yeah, don't worry about them.
Khaled, what would you do to deliberately impress others? What would you do to deliberately impress others? Khaled Shatila.
Manuel Mendoza is trying to hit on the. He's trying to hit the right buttons this evening. He's trying to delve into the inner Khaled. He's trying to delve in to what happens inside my circle of existence. Well, I'm going to answer you 5 years ago. If I were 5 years younger than this, when I used to be 17 or 18, I have no idea. I suck at math. I don't care. Years before that, I would want to get people to notice me, to notice that, hey, I exist, to notice that, hey, I try to be ambitious, that, hey, I'm there, hey, notice me. But I never really had the value for people to notice me. Like, why did I really want to be noticed? Why do I actually want the attention of people? Why did I actually want to be there, or to give people their time, or to give the time of people the value they deserve? Yet as the years passed by, and I noticed that I genuinely meet people with me in my life, because people are an essence of my personal success. This is why I joined Toastmasters, to give myself room to express, to give myself room to have an idea and to deliver it to people who are willing to listen. Turns out, as I was growing up, I did have a very supportive family who did listen to me. But my peers and my colleagues at school, they never did give me a chance. And I thought, hey, I am unlistened to with the things that I want to express and talk about. My parents weren't really interested in my gaming sessions. Neither did my school friends. Neither in the Scouts. So this is why it became like some sort of, hey, you need to do 1, 2, 3 in order to be noticed. But as the years passed by, I could care less about people noticing me or not, because my actions are speaking much more louder than my words. I don't care about people saying, hey, you're doing 1, 2, 3, you're doing a great job, because I already know that I'm doing a great job. Sometimes, yes, I do need the support of certain people that says, yeah, you are doing a great job, keep on going, moving on. But the yearn of having the collective agree that, hey, that are noticing me, I don't need that anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Khaled. Okay, so I'm going to evaluate you if you don't mind. Then if anyone else would like to evaluate you, we can have that as well. Khaled, I've seen you give table topics a lot. And personally, I think that this time you took a little bit of time to get into the answer. So the introduction was a little bit too long. Basically, when I was raising the yellow flag, you were starting to answer the question. So for next time, try to get into the topic faster, because your introduction should only be around 10% of your speech. Mainly the bulk should be the body, and the conclusion should be around 10%. So try to stick to that so that you do not lose the attention of your audience. That's my feedback. Anyone else would like to evaluate Khaled?
Yeah, I want to say, Khaled, I've seen you also several times delivering table topics, and you are great at that. Actually, when you take the station table topics, I know that I cannot go for, I won't get first place. That always goes to you. The only thing I felt missing today was that vocal variety that you usually have. I don't know why. I missed that. Your answer was overall a good answer. The only thing I have to emphasize for you and for everybody, because Gabriel, you should know that we have contests where we do this, like we are doing right now. It's a contest. The contestants are called up on the stage and they are asked a question. And there are rules. And the rules of timing are very precise, very exact in contests. So the timing should start with the first communication that the speaker realizes or does, the first communication he or she does. So when Khaled said, Manuel Mendoza is doing this, that's when the timer starts. Because I felt the timer started later than that. So with the first word, or sometimes, yeah, I was timing here also. And also, the communication can be non-verbal. Like if I'm on stage, I listen to the question and I start doing some gestures, like I'm looking for something. That is a communication, and that's when the timer starts. So just keep that in mind, because when we go to contests, there is no flexibility with the rules. That's my feedback.
Okay, Khaled is bullying me in the chat for being old and late time. Thank you, Khaled.
I want to evaluate myself.
In 1 second.
Good job.
Anyone else would like to?
Good job.
Gabriel, do you have anything to add to Khaled? Like what you think you'd like to tell us your opinion?
I agree with what I was actually also listening and admiring what he was saying, and I didn't focus a lot on the expression, but the content. So yes, it's not easy to express oneself, and if we're not given the proper means when we're young. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. Okay, if you don't want, if we have a few more questions if you'd like to participate before we can wrap up. Anyone else wants to get a turn? Okay.
Roland, go for it.
Roland, would you like to try one more time?
You can address it. Yes, I will go. I hope my internet does not. Okay. Let's give it a shot. But before giving it, what was the feedback? The feedback was around it. Okay, yellow, and yeah. I'm ready, Soraya.
Perfect. So the question is, I'm trying to change the types of question. So this time I'm going to give you this.
Give me a hard one.
The questions are relatively easy today because we want to learn, like, to practice how to answer in a structured manner. So I'll keep the hard ones for a different meeting. But let's focus on building a proper, well-structured answer for now. We can level up. So the question is, quality is not an act, it is a habit. Aristotle. Would you rather learn different set of skills without perfecting them, or learn one skill and perfect it? So would you rather learn a set of skills without perfecting them, or choose one skill to learn with perfection? Okay, so the question is, would you rather learn different skills without perfecting them, or choose one skill and perfect it?
Okay, I got it now. Soraya, I know that you drive manual, right? Yes, you do. And you're a very good driver. Imagine that you bought your dream car, the manual one that you can, I don't know, go from 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. And the moment that you put your key in and try to turn it on, does not. Simply because the tires, the four tires, the engine, the brakes, everything in this car is broken. Thus, it won't take you anywhere and it will be useless. So, what is the benefit of several skills? Maybe you could be a good developer. You are a good developer. You could be a developer. But not being able to do a simple development skill, you just have an overview of the topic. In Lebanese and in Arabic, we have it, it means you are doing others people job without taking the good knowledge of it. And I do believe that instead of this broken car that we've spoke about, it could be a GTR, a Porsche, a Ferrari, anything, but it does not serve you or helps you in any activity or action you might need. I do believe that you need to replace it with a Peugeot 1990 that will take you from the south to the north because of the utility, because it will be very useful. And so do applies to the skills. Master one skill instead of showing off in front of your friends and trying to be the person that is able to do several things. No, be genuine, be sincere, master one skill, and you will never fail in such a domain. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Manuel. Sorry, Roland. And thank you for relating it to my car, but I'm not going to change my car. Never. Khalid, would you like to give feedback to Roland?
Unfortunately, when Roland took the stage, I took a stroll to the toilet, so excuse me. So, I'm very sure that he applied the evaluation that I told. And I'm very sure that having one skill in life will not take you anywhere. حتى لو كانت ultra, that's my opinion, because I don't have one skill. إذا كان عندي one skill كنت اتشقفت من زمان. And with that being said, I'm very sure that Thuraya has evaluation for you. Thuraya?
But wasn't the question is mastering one skill or just hanging around other skills? مش هيك كان the question?
Yes, it is. Khalid, you're not supposed to evaluate the content or his opinion. You're evaluating his speech.
أنا سمعت آخر 5 ثواني فالحمد لله.
Okay, so Khalid got a phone call while you were answering. Manuel, would you like to evaluate him before I could evaluate?
Yes, basically just one comment. Well, first I disagree with what Suraya says that we shouldn't evaluate the content. I mean, content is part of the delivery.
I mean
the what?
I meant the opinion, the choice.
Oh, the opinion. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Suraya meant the opinion and the person himself, maybe anything personal.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you are answering a question like that, it's good to take someone as an example, but try to answer for everybody, because all the time I felt like you were talking only to Suraya and then the rest of the audience doesn't feel included. Like, okay, Suraya, you do this and you do that, but if anyone does this and does that, like you can broaden the answer so everybody feels included. And the other point is I felt you were too much around the bushes and just at the end you gave a straight answer. Like there were some points where I didn't know how what he's saying relates to the question. So just try to not go so wide when you are speaking or when you are giving shape to your answer. Try to not go so wide. Try to keep to be a little more concise and closer to what the question was. That's all I can say about this.
Yes, I have to agree with you, Manuel. Definitely, when you're talking, try to include everyone, not just one person in the audience, because if they hear Suraya, then they might feel excluded and not probably lose interest in talking and listening to your speech. And yes, definitely, you had an example, but I think the example should have, like, you should have thought of the example in a better way to relate it to your end. It was a good example if you rephrased it in a different way, and maybe highlighted different aspects of this example. That's mainly my feedback. Okay, so mainly it's almost 9. I would like to see if Gabriel, you'd like to try one more time, or we can wrap up.
I'm going to excuse myself. I have to take my leave. You guys carry on and have a good night.
Thank you so much, Khaled. Have a good night. Okay, so Gabriel, would you like to try, or?
Actually, I'm having some troubles with my computer, so sorry.
No worries. We would love to hear your feedback about the meeting.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have issues. So if no one wants to come up, I think we can wrap up, but we would love to hear your feedback about the meeting, if you liked it. What would you like to see in our next meetings? Anything that comes to your mind.
Well, for me, it's very interesting. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the advices, and no, it's really interesting. It gives you things to think about and work on.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you in our meetings, especially since we talked before. So it's really nice to have you in this session. And definitely we are having other meetings next week. We have Mother's Day special, since it's going to be Mother's Day. So the theme will be Mother's Day. The meeting will be different than today, definitely. So if you're free, you're always welcome anytime you would like. So that's it for the meeting. Anyone else wants to add anything before we close? Do you have anything else? We can end the meeting. Okay. It was very nice to have you. Thank you, all of you, for your contribution, and hope to see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Suraya, Roland, Gabriel. Thank you, everyone. Hey, guys, can you stay a moment?
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Who's that Zoom? Who's that Zoom?
Valid open. Open sesame.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I didn't know who that was. Okay, so just can we stop the streaming, please?
Of course.